Smoke your pot in peace. That's the word from the Obama administration to medical marijuana users in the states that allow it. The Fed, as I mentioned, no longer chasing you, but we are chasing the debate with our blogger bunch today, and we have some really interesting bloggers today. First of all, Calvina Fay. She is executive director of the Partnership for a Drug-Free America. You can find her site at drugfree.org. Calvina, a pleasure to have you.
Good morning.
Also want to welcome Neil Franklin from leap.cc. That is Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. He had worked in Maryland for many years for law enforcement, and his tune has changed a bit since he was working there. It's great to see you here. And finally, Keith Stroop, founder of Normal. You can find them at NORML.org. By the way, that stands for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. So we want to welcome all of you here. Let me first start with Calvina. So when you first heard of this information coming from Washington, D.C., that the Obama administration was going to change the policy that was long held under the Bush administration, what was your reaction?
Well, first of all, the guidelines that were issued yesterday are simply putting into writing the policy that was announced back in January. And it really isn't much of a deviation from what has been practiced. If you look at how our drug laws were enforced and who the drug enforcement agencies were arresting under both the Bush and the Clinton administration, it really hasn't changed because it hasn't been their practice to go after patients and sick and dying people, but rather to go after those that are trafficking in drugs, that are peddling drugs to our kids, and that are putting our communities at risk. So we really haven't seen much of a change here in the focus of policy.
And are you okay with that?
Well, I think that going after drug dealers and going after those that are profiting other people by misleading sick people to think that marijuana could be helpful to them and making it easier for our kids to use drugs, absolutely. I think that we should be focusing on them and going after them, which is what DEA has been doing for a number of years now.
But just so I have your position straight, are you fine with the fact that the administration, as you put it, isn't necessarily changing their enforcement? It seems to me they're changing what they're saying. But if the enforcement is going to be the same as it was in previous administrations, are you okay with that? Are you okay with not going after states that allow medical marijuana?
Well, like I said, I don't think that there really has been a change. They have not said, in fact, they clearly say in these guidelines that law enforcement does have the discretion to go after even users if they see that that's in the best interest of the overall picture. But it has never been the priority of the DEA to go after the users. They go after the people that might possess large amounts of drugs, that are committing other crimes that might be drug-related, and certainly those that are trafficking in drugs. And I think we'll see that continue with these guidelines. So I really don't see that the guidelines have really changed what the practice is.
All right, Keith Stroop from normal.org. Do you think this is a change? Because there are a lot of people saying that this is a fundamental shift.
Oh, I think it's a significant change in policy. For the last 8 years, the federal government has alleged that there is no such thing as a medical use of marijuana, and anyone who possesses or uses it is a criminal, even if you're a dying cancer patient or an AIDS patient or an MS patient. Obama, during the campaign, said he would not use federal resources to continue to go after and prosecute patients and caregivers in the 13 states where they have legalized medical use under state law. He would no longer allow federal resources to interfere in that. They would leave those people alone. So I think it's a 180-degree change in policy, and I think there are tens of thousands of seriously ill patients all over this country who feel much safer today than they did 2 days ago.
Neil Franklin, for 32 years you were with law enforcement. You were a veteran commander there. In fact, you worked with the Division of Bureau of Drug and Criminal Enforcement there in Maryland. Since leaving that, you are now part of an organization that appears to be in favor of decriminalizing marijuana. So what was your reaction when you heard this response from the Obama administration? Did you see it as a big change?
Oh, this was huge. This was a monumental step forward. And I'd like to say that even though the feds, and it was said earlier by your guest that the feds weren't pursuing users of medical marijuana, but let me say local law enforcement and at the state level, we have been pursuing over the years anyone who used marijuana, anyone who possessed marijuana, no matter what their cause. But now that the federal government has come out and said that they're no longer going to pursue users of medical marijuana, this is huge. This is a huge message given out to local law enforcement and at the state level as well. This is a huge step towards regulation and control. Over the past 40 years, there has been virtually no regulation and control over marijuana. Now we're taking a step in that direction, and that is what will keep it out of the hands of our young people, regulation and control.
Calvina, I know that you have made a case that this isn't a major policy change, but given that that's the way it's been kind of pitched, and that's the way it seems as if people are responding to it, do you have concerns that this change, or in your opinion, not a big change, will eventually lead to the legalization of marijuana across the states?
Well, we've been concerned from day one when the drug legalization advocates started pursuing and promoting the concept of marijuana as medicine, that was the first step toward full drug legalization. And they are demonstrating that, in fact, that is what the intent was from the beginning. But I can tell you that even people who got behind Prop 215 and supported the concept of marijuana as medicine because they were sick and they had been misinformed about using crude marijuana as a medicine, even they have contacted us. They're extremely concerned about what they're seeing with the abuses that the medical marijuana law out in California and other states has opened a floodgate. It has become the cash crop to support the Mexican drug cartels. It has created a huge proliferation of pot shops out there. They are nothing more than storefront operations for dealing drugs and selling to kids as well as adults. It is totally out of control. They have marijuana grow houses because, of course, the marijuana has to come from somewhere. So they have marijuana grow houses all over the state of California that are creating major havoc for law enforcement. This is what the federal law enforcement agents have been focusing on, is shutting down these dispensaries and shutting down these grow houses that are just creating major havoc in the neighborhoods and making it very unsafe for families.
All right, Calvina,
so
let me get...
So we're concerned about it.
You made a lot of points there. Let me get Keith Stroop to respond to some of those points. Keith, Calvina is describing a situation that sounds like, as she says, chaos going on because of what's happening in states like California.
Well, Calvina has always thought that it's chaotic if we stop arresting marijuana smokers, but keep in mind, we arrested almost 900,000 marijuana smokers in this country last year, 89% for possession of an ounce or less of marijuana. We are needlessly destroying the lives and careers of large numbers of otherwise law-abiding Americans for no good reason. So I absolutely think that we need to legalize marijuana as a medicine, but I think we need to go further than that. There's a bill pending in Congress, which is H.R. 2835 by Representative Frank and Ron Paul and a number of others. I think there are 30 co-sponsors. That would change federal law so a doctor could prescribe marijuana. And there's a second bill that would eliminate federal law altogether so that any adult could smoke marijuana if they did it responsibly. It should be of no interest or concern to the government.
I want to show you guys a Gallup poll that was just taken this month, and Gallup was asking, as they've done over a number of years, what the support is like in America for the legalization of marijuana. And here's what they found this month. They found that 44% of Americans support making marijuana legal, 54% are opposed. But I should note that acceptance jumped 31% in the year 2000, and since then they've seen that support build in a smaller scale, but build every year. Now look all the way back to, this is 2003. That's the last time they asked how Americans favor the use of medical marijuana, and as you can see, the support is much higher, 75%. Gallup is reporting that that 44% number that I just mentioned a moment ago is the highest support they have seen in the United States since they started to poll there. I want to ask Neil what he thinks when he sees those numbers.
Well, I've also seen other polls where the numbers are even higher than 44%. You just stated in the Gallup poll that's what it was. You know, speaking of numbers, our prisons are bursting at the seams, and many of those in prison are for nonviolent drug offenses as it relates to the use and possession of marijuana. That's one of the things that we need to change. In California, for instance, they're under the gun right now to free up the beds in their prisons. They're drastically overcrowded. So when you look at percentages, we need to not just look at what's occurring with what you brought up as far as the public opinion as far as medical marijuana and so on, but we need to look at the other effects. We need to look at the violence that's associated with the sale of marijuana on an illegal realm right now. The cartels, it is stated in the memo that the cartels' financial support overwhelmingly comes from the sale of marijuana. We need to change that, and the only way to change that is to take the criminal enterprise out of this.
Neil, let me speak to that point right now, because that's true, and this is something that one of our viewers has written in about. Robert tells us, if marijuana is the #1 revenue of the Mexican cartel, let's take that revenue away. Current laws only raise prices and discourage domestic competition. I say legalize it and let the American pot smoker go to work growing their own plants. Calvina, I'm sure you have something to say about that.
If we think that the drug cartel